Folks, it's not funny anymore. They are burning down the planet, the entire world, on their way out the door just to own Trump. I don't think this can be overstated. It's that bad. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it only took 4 years of a Democrat administration after Trump left for ISIS to go from being dead as a doornail, as a joke, as like, hey, remember ISIS? To ISIS taking over an entire country. ISIS is now up against the gates of Damascus. They're raping and pillaging along the way. They are destroying any chance that Syria has of being a pluralistic society. There will be no religious minorities under ISIS. There will only be Salafi Islam. And boy, was I critical about Trump with regards to Syria. Did my head explode over him getting absolutely rolled by the intelligence community and by the Pentagon when he ordered them to leave Syria, to leave Assad alone, and they kept fighting the war? And then he eventually, because they had backed him into a corner and done a rug pull on him, he just had to accept it like a bitch and say, you know what, and cope by saying, well, hey, sure, we've got troops in Syria still, but that's because we're there to steal the oil. As critical as I was of all that, at least under Trump, ISIS was not allowed to take over the whole country. He actually did try to reverse the Obama administration policy and fight ISIS instead of supporting it. And he did, from what I understand. He did successfully get the CIA to pull most of their funding and their support for ISIS. And when Trump left office, most of ISIS, of Tahrir al-Sham, as they're now known, formerly known as al-Nusra, formerly known as al-Qaeda, they were confined to Idlib. That was sort of the demilitarized zone. That was Turkey's little cutout along the border with Syria. It was somewhere that was essentially used as a quarantine for all these people. And the rest of the country, for the most part, other than the east where all the oil is, where America was occupying, other than American-occupied Syria, the population centers of Syria, the largest cities, for the most part, were free of ISIS. But now all that's out the window. I wasn't watching Syria very closely for the past 4 years because frankly, it never occurred to me that this could happen. It is quite shocking, but it appears that ISIS played the long game, and they're going to win in the end. There are a lot of rumors that Assad has already fled the country, which I guess wouldn't be shocking at the rate in which they're moving. Russia and the United States both, I believe, urged their citizens to get out while you still can, because even though the United States is supporting these people, they know that they are monsters who will murder any American that they come across. I think that Syria will end up being the most vile part of NATO's legacy in the 21st century. Yes, the sheer magnitude of the casualties in Ukraine may outweigh Syria, although I haven't checked that. I should double check that, because the Syria war has been going on for so long, and it was so much worse for such a long time than the Ukraine war. The Ukraine war didn't really get so insane until the last couple of years, whereas the Syria war started out really, really bad, and over time calm down, although now it's back in full force. And furthermore, I think the ramifications of having an ISIS-controlled state in the heart of the Middle East, I think that is a much worse proposition than, just propping up Zelensky and, potentially creating a safe haven for Ukrainian neo-Nazis. Like, I'm much less worried about it as an American. I'm much less worried about Ukrainian neo-Nazis harming me personally than I'm worried about, an Al-Qaeda super state. I think that Syria will become the so-called terrorist safe haven that the Bush administration used to argue Afghanistan was. Because unlike Afghanistan, Syria will be run by Al-Qaeda. And even if they don't call themselves Al-Qaeda, even if now, hilariously, Abu Muhammad al-Jawlani is now dressing like Zelensky, they're wearing the exact same outfits. I won't be surprised if he trims his beard a little bit. But, Zelensky really wants to grow the big operator beard, but I'm sure he just can't. That would be my guess. Whereas Jawlani, he's got a full beard. So, he looks like a big tough guy operator out there. In his, in his OD green shirt. Like, what are you doing wearing OD green in Syria? Like, you should be wearing tan. Like most other militaries that operate in that kind of an environment. So it's all a LARP. He's literally just trying to, or, I'm sure at the behest of his NATO handlers, saying, hey, act like Zelensky. And I'm sure it's largely because Russia is bogged down in Ukraine that Syria is currently so weak, and that they were able to make this big push against Assad, force him out, and bring about the new caliphate. Now, I hope I'm wrong, and that the Salafis and the Al-Qaeda adjacent folks who are about to take over Syria, I hope that they maybe repent and change their ways. And maybe they were just grifters all along. Maybe they were grifting, the Salafis and the other terrorists, and they themselves are just, normal corrupt politicians. I mean, that would be a great outcome if that were the case, but I don't think that's the case. I think these guys are the real deal. And they're the folks that did 9/11, okay? I mean, aren't Americans supposed to oppose that? Do I really have to argue that Al-Qaeda is the bad guy in any situation? Isn't that something that all Americans should be able to agree on? Like, I mean, come on. I mean, I'm not even going, like, people wonder why there are 9/11 truthers. I mean, seriously. Our government supports Al-Qaeda? Oh, and I think that's less I think that's less proof that Al-Qaeda didn't do 9/11 and more proof that our government hates us and that they don't hold killing 3,000 Americans against them. And that if the government did know about Al-Qaeda's plans for 9/11 ahead of time, it wouldn't have hurt them in the heart too bad to just sort of look the other way and let it happen. Because letting Al-Qaeda do 9/11, facilitating it, is way less evil than what they've done facilitating Al-Qaeda's activities in Syria. Way more people have died in Syria. So you can say that the truther folks, which I don't consider myself one, but you can say they have no evidence or, their arguments are stupid. It's like, but you can't say that they're crazy. You can't say that they're unreasonable. Because by that standard, what is going on today in Syria with the United States and NATO, primarily Turkey, which, I mean, Turkey, if the U.S. has any self-respect, Turkey will be expelled from NATO immediately. Turkey is perhaps the second greatest state sponsor of terror in the world today, second after only the United States. Oh, and not to mention Israel, who has been pounding Assad into the ground for over a decade. For as long as this has been going on, Israel has been bombing Syria. trying to take out Assad, trying to help Al-Qaeda. I mean, they call Israel, the IDF, Al-Qaeda's Air Force. And for what? Because Giuliani promises that he's going to open an Israeli embassy in Damascus. I mean, come on. Oh, Al-Qaeda, I mean, this has been the case for the entirety of the Syrian civil war. I remember seeing on Vice, they went into a hospital in Israel where ISIS fighters, but they weren't called ISIS yet. They were called al-Nusra back then. Al-Nusra fighters who were, injured in battle against Assad's forces were being treated in Israeli hospitals. And there were these Al-Qaeda guys, wounded, laying in hospital beds going, maybe I was wrong about the Jews. These Jews aren't so bad. They're treating my wounds. I think I like Jews now. And so Israel has a long history now of being allied with the worst people in the Islamic world. And so we can also thank Netanyahu as well as Erdogan and Biden. It really was a trifecta of Al-Qaeda sympathizers who made this day possible. It's not just Democrats, though, of course. The entirety of the Republican Party before Trump, other than perhaps Rand Paul, who did push back against Obama when he wanted to send ground troops to Syria to depose Assad and fight on the side of Al-Qaeda. Most of the Republican Party very supportive of Al-Qaeda in this war, including close Trump advisor Rick Grenell, who better not get any appointment in this administration, or else just it's over, folks. If he has any sort of foreign policy role, like Rick Grenell running for governor of California, it's okay, that's fine. That's a fine role for, gay neocon Republican. Leverage your gayness to run for governor of California and stay the hell out of the State Department, stay the hell out of the CIA, stay the hell out of the Pentagon. But Rick Grenell still just, melting down, Assad must go. After all these years, Assad gassed his own people. Oh my God. Like that's a great, the Assad gassed his own people is a great, binary IQ test. If you say Assad gassed his own people, you failed the IQ test. If you realize that that was a fake story, and that the entire cover-up with the OPCW, the CNN reporter who smelled a backpack and said, "Oh yeah, that smells like mustard gas to me," that all that was clearly bullshit, and you did not follow along with it. Congratulations, you passed the IQ test. You have an IQ above 70. So anyway, I'm going to continue monitoring this every day, although I don't expect any good news. It's a sad day for civilization. I feel very bad for the people of Syria. I hope that I'm wrong. I really do. I hope that these Al-Qaeda guys do sell out for power, do sell out to the West. Although I think that the West will be mostly okay with their terrible domestic policies. Look at Saudi Arabia. What Saudi Arabia gets with is unconscionable. It's way worse than anything that Iran does to its own people. But Saudi Arabia gets away with it because they're allied with the United States. And so I expect the new Syria to be pretty similar to Saudi Arabia. After all, this is Saudi Arabia's specific sect of Islam that has, that dominates this. It was the Saudis, who created Al-Qaeda. Bin Laden was the son of a very prominent Saudi family. They're billionaires. I believe they're billionaires. Maybe they're only 100 millionaires. I can't remember now. But they're probably billionaires. It's all that oil money over there. Good friends of the Bushes, as it turns out. You should look what George H.W. Bush was up to on 9/11. I really didn't intend for this video to turn into a 9/11 truther, spurg out. But it's like, what else am I supposed to... How do I not talk about that? How do I not bring this up when Israel, the United States, and NATO are cheering on Al-Qaeda as they take over a country, and they're threatening to take over 2 more. They're saying if Iraq intervenes to protect civilization in Syria, they're going to invade Iraq, and then they'll truly be ISIS once again, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. Right now, they're just the Islamic State of Syria. And now they're also threatening to take over Lebanon, because some of you folks may remember, once upon a time, Syria conquered Lebanon. They occupied Lebanon. There was a lot of folks in Syria who wanted to annex Lebanon, just make it Syria, add to their coastline. These ISIS folks want to do so again, and of course they're promising to be friends with Israel. These are Sunnis. If they take over Lebanon, they will be able to crush Hezbollah. They would be natural enemies of Hezbollah. Hezbollah has been fighting against them in Syria. And so once they consolidate power in Damascus, there's a good chance that Lebanon will be fighting a 2-front war against the Salafis to their north and to their east, and the Israelis to their south. And so Lebanon, by far the most cosmopolitan, the most socially liberal, the most westernized of all the countries in the Middle East, they're going to fall and be dominated by Al-Qaeda. I guess because Al-Qaeda is claiming that they're going to be friends with Israel. Could our leaders be any more evil? Could NATO and the foreign policy establishment be any more disingenuous? Lebanon should be, in their minds, like the least problematic Middle Eastern country, and instead they consider it to be one of the worst. Remember all those Christians that Israel and the United States used to support during the Lebanese Civil War? Yeah, they're going to be exterminated when Al-Qaeda takes over their country. When they are annexed by the Islamic State of Syria, all that will be left will be specifically Salafi Sunni Islam. Everyone else will be driven underground, they will be hunted, and they will be killed. And that will all be blood on the United States, Israel, Turkey, and NATO more broadly, because no one in NATO is standing up to this. No one in NATO has supported Assad. No one in NATO has opposed Al-Qaeda. And that should prove to you that these other governments, these governments in Europe, Canada, they care no more about the folks who died on 9/11 than our own leaders do. They hate us just as much as the folks in Washington. Canada is not your friend. Britain is not your friend. Germany is not your friend. France is not your friend. And I think that should be Trump's attitude. I wish that I could take everything I've said and just funnel it into Trump's ear. But boy, if there aren't millions of people right now, when you're president-elect, if there are probably billions of people on this planet who are all saying that, saying, gee, I wish I had the president-elect's ear. I wish I had the chance to form this, this incoming American administration, because for now, America is still that important. So with that said, I will see you folks back here in the next one.